What's up, fellas? In the second video of today, we're talking about some NBA teams that need to be sellers prior to the NBA trade deadline, which we are now just a few short weeks away from. And I'm identifying some teams as well as, some players that they need to be trading away that I think definitely need to be in sell now mode. We'll talk about the context of each of those teams, where these players could potentially be ending up, and all those different details in the second video of the day. But really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every single day on this channel, so it's the most consistent NBA content on YouTube. I'm Tucker, by the way, if you're new here, what's up? You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well if you're enjoying them, and check me out at various socials in a Linktree link down in the description below. With those things said, let's go and talk about these teams. So the first one on the list is a very, very obvious one, and it's the Houston Rockets. There was a report that came out yesterday that basically said that teams are expecting a big move. They're expecting a lot of moves in Houston. They're expecting a quote-unquote fire sale from the Houston Rockets. And it makes total sense. You already traded away James Harden. You're clearly playing for the future with all these first-round picks. You've got multiple tradable players on the roster in Eric Gordon, Victor Oladipo, PJ Tucker. And it's pretty clear that you have the picks and you have Christian Wood, and those are all in a little pile off to the side. And then everybody else on the roster is in a different little pile labeled is available. Like, the other stuff is not really, available for trade right now, but the other stuff is kind of sitting out at a garage sale right now. Like, if you want John Wall, if you want Eric Gordon, if you want Oladipo, if you want PJ Tucker, all you got to do is pick up the phone and ask, because I think not only is Houston interested in trading those guys, but they absolutely should be interested in trading those guys. There's not a future for this season. They're one of the worst teams in the league right now. And again, it's interesting because they do actually have pieces that other teams want. I think PJ Tucker is going to end up on a contender. I would not be shocked to see Eric Gordon move to a team that wants a little bit more of an offensive punch. I would not be surprised to see Victor Oladipo go somewhere, and not honestly require a lot of value to get, just because Houston is so terrified of him leaving the offseason for nothing. All those things coming together make me think that absolutely Houston not only needs to be a seller, but they will be leading up to the deadline. Second team in the video now. I've talked about them multiple times in trade stuff lately, and it's the Sacramento Kings. I think it's pretty clear that pieces of this roster don't work particularly well, and they just kind of need to shuffle some pieces. So kind of the thing looming over all this in a positive way right now is Tyrese Haliburton. Tyrese Haliburton's been fantastic. I think he's been better than even the Kings expected him to be. And it's pretty clear that long-term moving forward, De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton, like, those are going to be the two guys that you're going to build around, and then hopefully Marvin Bagley can figure it out as well. And the people that leaves on the outside looking in for this season would be Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes. Buddy Hield has been rumored to be on the trade market for a year and a half, basically. He hasn't been particularly happy with the situation, and I think he's a good player. I mean, he's one of the best shooters in the league, and really, if from the moment he gets to a new team, would increase their three-point volume and efficiency in a significant way. And then Harrison Barnes is a fine wing that can defend a little bit, provide some size, can score a little bit, isn't going to do anything incredibly flashy, but for a team like Boston, fits really, really well. And I think that there are a couple of goals that Sacramento should have here. One, the development of Fox and Haliburton are primary. Throw Marvin Bagley in there as well, assuming they don't trade him this trade deadline, which I've talked about in a different video. The other thing is, I think they need to shed some money. One of the reasons that Bogdanovich ended up leaving is because they felt like they'd already committed so much money to other players on the roster, so ideally they would have dumped that salary before he became a free agent, which I've talked about a handful of times. But if they can just start to dump some money, make this a bit of a leaner team, then they'll have the opportunity to bring in some players as free agents or make some moves, in the trade market. And I don't think that having Hield specifically, and then to a lesser extent, Harrison Barnes on the roster, really helps facilitate any of those moves or any growth from the roster. I think those guys are what they are. They're not going to get that much better. Get value out of them. Focus on Fox, Haliburton, and Bagley, and then go forward from there. Or if you want to, you can trade Bagley this trade deadline as well if you think it's just never going to happen for him. So I think, again, the Kings are absolutely sellers here. Next up now, the Orlando Magic. We talked about them a little bit in the first video of the day with some rumors surrounding Evan Fournier as well as Terrence Ross. I think that any player on the roster, not named Markelle Fultz, not named Jonathan Isaac, and if you want to throw someone like Cole Anthony in there, I think everybody else should be available. I think Aaron Gordon trade should be on the table. Vucevic, Terrence Ross, Evan Fournier. I think all those guys, Mo Bamba even, I think all those guys should be on the table. It's pretty clear that they've got, some younger players that, yes, are coming off injuries, but should be good. If you want to keep Bamba, that's fine. But there's this other group of players that either I think have some value that you should capitalize on in Aaron Gordon, or are just a little bit older than the rest of the quote-unquote core you have on the roster, being Isaac and Fultz, and those being, Vucevic and Ross and Fournier. They're in this weird spot where it's like you can either go for a youth movement or you can keep trying to win 40 games in a regular season. Those are your two options, and neither of those, or one of those, is fine in the moment, but doesn't really help you in the long term, and the other could lead to something that, brings this team a significantly higher ceiling. So I would advocate for them to start trading some players away to get some value, to start to really bring up some of the young talent on this roster, and really go for a draft pick this year, quite honestly. Tank a little bit. I think you can get good value out of Vucevic. I think you can get some value out of Aaron Gordon, Fournier, and Terrence Ross, and then you go from there. That personally is what I would advocate for there in Orlando. Fourth now, again, another team we talked about a little bit in the first video of the day is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Larry Nance should be traded. Kevin Love, they should try and dump his money as well. I think all those things, are necessary for the growth of this roster moving forward. I think the Jared Allen, potentially Darius Garland, Colin Sexton combination, like all those things can be nice, positive things moving forward for Cleveland. They've got the remnants of something that could actually be pretty decent moving forward, and then Okoro and whatever they add in this upcoming draft. But some of the the veterans are kind of bogging that down, and just get value out of the guys. I don't think I need to spend too much time on Cleveland. The two teams I want to spend time on though at the end of this video, they're within the same entry, but they're kind of not really on the list. I just kind of want to talk about them. It's Minnesota and it's Oklahoma City. So I think the first four teams, it's pretty clear why they need to be sellers. But when you look at the Timberwolves, when you look at Oklahoma City, you're thinking, well, why are they not also sellers? I think you could make the case that they should be, but here's my point about them. They have some guys they can move, right? Like, I think Minnesota could move Ricky Rubio. I think they could move Jarrett Culver in the right situation. I think Oklahoma City could move Al Horford or George Hill for assets, whatever the case may be. But as a whole, I don't think that they're sellers. I think they're just waiting. I think they're just kind of, hanging back, waiting on their guys to develop, or in the case of Minnesota, waiting on guys to get healthy long term. And then there could be a significant jump in their record from this year to next year or the following, because there is young talent. There are good players on this team, or on these teams, that can, really provide positive value for them moving forward. And I don't think that's really the case with Houston in terms of young players. Yeah, Sacramento has Halliburton and Fox, but outside of that, not so much. Same thing with the Magic, because their guys are hurt. And the Cavs, yeah, they've got some interesting guys, but they don't have Karl Anthony Towns. They don't have D'Angelo Russell. They don't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And so when I say a team needs to be a seller, I kind of mean pretty much everybody in the roster is available, and I don't think that's the case specifically in Minnesota. I think Beasley's good. They just got Anthony Edwards. Cat's not going anywhere yet. They've got some other pieces on the roster as well. And then for Oklahoma City, it's Shea, and then they've got Lou Dort, and then they've got just some other interesting little pieces on this roster, that Maladon, whatever the case may be, that they're kind of just chilling. So I kind of wanted to give an explanation, because I think a lot of people are going to look at the standings and they're going to assume, oh, these are two of the worst teams in the West. They're going to be trading pieces away. And yeah, I'm sure Oklahoma City is going to explore trying to get value out of George Hill, trying to get value out of Al Horford. Like I said, Minnesota might look to trade Ricky Rubio. But I don't think these guys quite qualify in the same category as sellers as the other four teams, just because, yeah, they've got some pieces, but as a whole, I think their rosters are more solid for the future than some of these other groups. I don't think they need to add as much in terms of a future asset standpoint than some of these other teams. Some of these other teams, it's like a necessity. It's not just that they have vets to trade, but they need to build towards the future. I don't necessarily think that's the case for Minnesota, Oklahoma City. Now, it never hurts to have more assets, and especially in the case of Oklahoma City, you want to have as many assets as you can to potentially go after a big-time star. And Minnesota, at some point, will probably need a significant upgrade as well. I'm not saying that they have the talent on this roster to go start winning 50 games 2 years from now. I'm just saying that adding a ton of more young talent in Minnesota might feel a bit redundant at a certain point. And again, Oklahoma City, they've got a ton of assets anyway. So that's an explanation as to why those two teams kind of are on the list, but also really aren't. But those other four start making moves. I think they're going to be active in the trade market, specifically Houston, but the other three as well. The last two, I wouldn't be surprised to see them make some moves, but ultimately, I would look more towards those first four teams. And again, the Houston situation is really, really intriguing to me as well. With PJ Tucker, with Eric Gordon, with potentially John Wall, I guess. I don't know if anybody's going to trade for John Wall. Oladipo, all that stuff. We talked a ton about Houston, but those are going to be my sellers as we get closer to the NBA trade deadline this season. And that is also going to be the end of the second video of the day. And I thank you guys very much for watching. As I said in the beginning, my name is Tucker. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like rating on it. Check out more videos from me at the boxes on screen, as well as on the channel as a whole. As I said, I upload twice a day, every single day on this channel. So if that's something that you're interested in, then consider subscribing. You guys want to hang out from me outside of these videos and any social media site that I have, all those links are down in the link tree down in the description below. With all those things said, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.